Welcome to the Fans of Fitness podcast, a voice for fitness, health, and wellness professionals. The National Personal Training Institute of Arizona.
Legit instructors teaching you.
No, enough of those bad reps. The good quality trainers that come out of the school.
Let's get into it.
Joey, it's amazing to have you here on our podcast. So glad you could make it. I can't wait to hear more about you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for being open to hear what I have to say. You know, you coming down to the studio and just meeting me and Serene and being inside OPT, you know, it means a lot. So thank you. I'm super excited to dive deep with you. So yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's good to meet you.
Yeah, you guys.
I'm not doing the ice bath.
We'll get you there.
No, I'll do it. It's good. I'll do it.
Yeah, I know what you'll do next time. You just come with blue jeans on again. Like, sorry, I'm not dressed for the occasion.
That was like Kevin did at Strict Vision. Kevin did it in his underwear.
Yeah, it was a hot day. We did a field trip to a place that we go quite often, and place we went, he had
an ice bath type thing.
Yeah, little plunge.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 34 degrees is what he keeps us at, or 33.
Right.
Anyway, it was hot, and one of our students is just like, "Hey man, I'm going in."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the guy that owns the business did not expect that. He just took his shorts off and his shirt and jumped right in. And we're like, okay, he was really hot.
It was hot.
And it did not faze him one bit. He just went right in there like it was lukewarm water.
Yeah, I think it was like the 1st of September or something like that, somewhere close to that.
And it was really hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we just did 2 field trips to your facility, OPT Fitness, and man, that was something. That was something. So the day and the night class, we both went to Joey's fitness studio. Didn't really know what to expect. I kind of had an idea, but I was way off. I was like, all right, so maybe we'll do contrast therapy and maybe we'll do some square breathing and maybe do a workout. But the closer we got with the day class, the more I thought, you know, we can work out anytime. I really want to see what this is about with the contrast therapy and what your message is. So we pivoted a little bit. Instead of working out, we decided, hey, hey man, do your thing, you know, and you did. And people came out of that different. The day and night class came out different people. Because I don't think any of them had ever experienced anything like that. In fact, I can say none of them have ever experienced anything like that. So having said that, why don't we talk a little bit about what we experienced?
Yeah. So, man, I guess when I reached out to you, like you through Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, for me and my business, I've been in business for 15 years, but it's never really taken off. A lot of that has to do with, I think, my personality, my organizational skills on top of my business skills. I just want to do what I love doing. I don't really want to do the business work. I don't want to do the crossing the T's and dotting the I's. I just want to be me. But now, because I'm realizing the impact that we have on people, I don't want to do that anymore. I want it to grow. So I spent some time reaching out. I think it was earlier this year. I think I reached out, or the end of last year. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was several months ago.
Yeah.
You were in a different location then.
Correct. I was in a completely different location then. And I don't know if I had just gotten back from the jungle or was going to the jungle again. But I know I reached into you in that time frame. And so, you know, I saw some of the people you had come and speak to the class, and I do public speaking now. I was just in Tuba City last week doing a public speaking event for like the health and wellness of Native American communities.
Awesome.
Like 3 weeks before that, I was back at Tuba City again doing a speech on like suicide prevention. And so I was like, okay, maybe he'll just have me come in and talk to the class. But then I was like, hey, well, I didn't know you were so close to me.
Yeah.
Our new location had you guys come in. And I think for me, I've been a trainer since I was 19 years old. So I'm 38 right now. I've been a trainer the entire way through, graduated from ASU with my degree in exercise science and wellness, went and got my CSCS because I was really big into the sports performance side of things. And as soon as you guys started to come in, I was like, I don't want to do workouts with this crew. Like I saw kind of everyone, there's like a lot of like bodybuilders in the class, like a lot of like, and I said, nah, you guys are going to go to whatever gym you go to, pick it. You're going to, we're going to do some lunges. We're going to do, how many times are going to show you how to do a squat variation or a kettlebell swing? It's like everyone's going to show you that. But what they're not going to show you is I'm going to show you. And I didn't want to do just the contrast stuff, right? Because for me, we're doing this for the past, I'm going to say 5 years now. Since 2017 is when I started getting into ice bath, sauna. But I've been doing meditation and breath work for about 10 years. And I was like, I want to do something different with this class, especially because as trainers, as like fitness coaches, health coaches, no one's really vulnerable. Everyone talks about vulnerability. Everyone talks about intimacy. But then when push comes to shove, I'm like, oh, you're not really about vulnerability. You're not really about communication skills. You're not. But how are you going to teach that to somebody else? How are you going to lead someone like through losing weight? Like when people have health issues or body image issues or body dysmorphia, it's such an intimate process. It requires so much vulnerability. And we don't expect that as trainers, like as fitness people. It's like we're just shells.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, I want to take this class and do something different. And the vulnerability piece on my end is, hey, I'm going to share with you guys my heart. And I don't know how you guys are going to take this, right? Because I know if I take you guys through a dynamic warm-up, treadmill sprints, bike sprints, I'll blast you guys in a workout. And you'll be like, I've never worked out that hard in my life. But that's no vulnerability on my piece. It's just I'm going to do what I do that I've been doing for 20 years. Like I don't even have to think about it.
Right.
Whereas I'm taking a group of professionals and I'm going to be in this whole way where they have to sit here. They have to be still. We're going to do this breath work. You have to share, right? I was like, all right, let's pivot. And to Travis's credit, he was like, okay, like let's do this. And he was kind of like, oh no. And so we get him seated in a circle, right? I kind of start to introduce him, like, who am I? Like I have this wall, I call it the OPT wall of greatness. And it's all these pictures of my whole life. You know, pictures of places I've been, places I've traveled, the people that I've helped, the communities that I serve. And like everyone just comes in and is like, oh my God, because I want people to know me. Like you're not just supporting a gym. You're supporting my life. You're supporting Ryan's life or Serene's life. You're supporting me to go and live into the jungle in isolation. You're supporting me giving back to my Native American community. You're supporting my dreams. And I want you to know that about me, that I'm not just this bro who walks around in tank tops and Crocs all day long. I dressed up for you guys right now, you know? Like I'm not wearing my tank. I have my Crocs.
You could have worn your tank top. It'd have been fine.
And so I want people to know me, you know, that it's not just about how you look here. So then we get into the meditation room and introduce ourselves. I'm talking to everyone about it. And when I talk about these things, about the people I work with, the impact that I've had, the places that I've been to travel to, the traumas I've overcome from abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, spiritual abuse, right, to the addictions I've gone through my dysfunctional family, to me being the first person in my family to graduate high school, first person in my family to graduate college, right? I had to work 4 jobs to put myself through college, you know, like all these different things that I've been through. You know, you hear me in the class is kind of like, you know, whatever, like, you know, there was some of that energy at first, right? Like, okay, well, we're going to lift weights, bro. Right. And I understand that. It kind of sounds like, who is this guy? Like, again, why doesn't he have 100,000 followers? Like, why isn't he famous? You know, and I don't live my life like that. You know, I don't value those kinds of things, which has been hard as a business owner. You know, I value this connection, communication, right? It's our 3rd time seeing each other in like 2 weeks. You know, I value connection. So it's like hard for me, you know? Yeah. And so then we're talking and I'm talking about the impact as quote unquote personal trainers, right, have on people's lives because we don't view it like that, whether you're a nutrition coach or, you know, however it might be. Personal trainers get this stereotype of when are you going to grow up? That's what I said to the class. Yep. When are you going to grow up? Like you get a big girl, get a big boy job, whatever that means. Yeah. And I've always hated that stereotype or just that kind of view that people have on the health and the fitness industry. And so I'm telling them that you're way more than what you think you are. Like the impact you have as a quote unquote trainer, you'll change people's lives. And I start just sharing the stories about people that I've, you know, their lives have changed. And now I'm leaning into that more. Again, they're like, okay, yeah, who is this guy? Like, whatever. Let's get on with this class, right? Yeah. So then I start having everyone do this breathing routine, right? And immediately, if I have you come into a breathwork class, I'll just dissect you just by how you breathe. Because I already know your breath is this connection to life. And if you're resistant to just breathing, it's like, oh, I know you're resistant to all kinds of things. Like you don't even have to tell me. I can see it somatically, how it lives in you. And so everyone's breathing, and I start talking to them about the mental cue. I said, what does it mean to you to be a coach? What does it mean to you to be this person? You know, and are you breathing with confidence? Are you breathing with integrity? Are you breathing with the belief that you can actually impact people's lives, right? Where everyone's breathing, right? And the one girl comes in late, right? This one girl comes in late. And am I allowed to say her name or no? Just keep it. I won't say her name.
Okay.
But this girl, it's in his class, is like bodybuilder, jacked. Like you would just never think, you know, that this girl was going to have this emotional revelation. So she sits down. She's late. We've already started breathing. And I just look at her and I kind of like show her how to breathe. So she starts breathing. And I'm still talking to them about what I want you guys to think about in this moment right here. And before we even get to like the third round, she's just crying. And no one knows this yet except for me. And I'm like, it's happening. Like, this is what OPT is. Mm-hmm. And I loved it because I think everyone was caught off guard because the breathing ended. We go around and I have people share. Introduce yourself, your name, right? Introduce yourself. Be proud of who you are. And what does it mean to be a coach for you?
Right.
So then Travis goes, and then this next girl goes, and she's just bawling. And I paused. And I said, I want you guys to know something right now. This is what OPT is. Mm-hmm. This is what it is. And I don't even know this girl. I haven't even, and she's already, and she just starts, like, I know she was just joking around, but she's like, F you, man, F you, man, F you. I'm over here crying, F you. And everyone's just like laughing, you know? And I use it as a huge teaching moment because all of a sudden it's like, oh no, what this guy's talking about is real.
Right.
And it's like so real. And it happened like that. And I was like so happy that it happened, not only for her, but for the class to see, even for you to see, be like, oh my God, like what the heck is happening? So then it changed the whole conversation for the class. Everyone all of a sudden was like a little bit more locked in. Mm-hmm. So then we go around the room, right? We share, get into the sauna. And I talk to them about all the benefits of the sauna, right? Because I can really geek out on the physiology. I really love physiology. So then I'm talking about the physiology, about the sauna and, you know, all the benefits, the health benefits, which are unbelievable. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
For you to know the benefits of the sauna and the ice and not do it, it's like you're ignorant.
Right.
It's like so crazy, the benefits, the physical benefits, health benefits. It's like all you have to do is sit here.
Yeah.
It would literally be ignorant,
be uncomfortable.
Correct, to not do it. So I'm talking to them about all that.
So I was worried about that. Like I love the sauna. So I would go sit in the sauna all the time. And I was always like, is this really healthy? Is this what I need to be doing?
Absolutely. 1,000%.
Tell them.
Seems too easy, right?
And I just found out earlier from Jennifer because found out that I need to breathe more. Because Jennifer teaches nutrition, but you had the students breathing, right? Before class?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I love it. It just puts you in a completely different, you don't realize how much you walk around your life breathing unintentionally. And for me, when I teach my classes, meditation classes, the sober living classes, the breath is life. It actually means spir, S-P-I-R, or spiratus. And what it actually translates to in Latin is spirit. Literally translates to spirit. So breath literally means spirit. And so then when you're breathing unconscious, it's because you're not walking connected to your own spirit. And then in physiological terms, it's you're sympathetic. I'm fight or flight. I'm chest breathing. I'm always living in my head. I'm not living in my body. I'm not embodying my breath. Mm-hmm. And so for you to always breathe with intention, I talked to the class a little bit about this. Mm-hmm. I'm embodying who I am. I can feel who I am. I can feel present in the room, and then I can show up how I want to show up. I'm not in my head. I'm literally speaking from inspiration. The word inspiration translates to fill with spirit. Mm-hmm. And so I pivoted with Travis because I was like, nah, man, I want to let's just freestyle this thing. Let me see what happens. And if I would have not let myself be like, hey, again, let's be vulnerable. Let's try something new with this class. The inspiration wouldn't have hit me. And then this conversation isn't even happening because you would have been like, oh yeah, he just works out here. It's like, whatever. We did contrast therapy. We've done it before. There's all these places doing it. He wouldn't have seen the magic part of it.
Yeah.
So then we get into the sauna with the crew. I'm breaking all the stuff down. And then we get into the ice. We're getting everyone into the ice. And the way that I approach it with the trainers, I said, hey, here's all the physical stuff of it. But then here's the emotional stuff. Here's the spiritual stuff. Here's the psychological stuff. Here is the stuff that nobody talks about in the contrast world, that's where I get frustrated. I'm like, man, you guys, again, you're so surface with what it is that you're doing. You're not actually teaching people about the elements. And for me, it's as a Native American, it's like we go to the earth to heal. So we use the elements to heal: fire, water, earth, wind. That's how we heal. Those are our ceremonies. Those are our traditions. And so then when you're just putting people into these places and not helping them unlock different layers, you're not only doing a disservice to yourself, you're doing a disservice to the people. Now, I get it. Again, people are trying to make money, and so it's like in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. But for me, I'm trying to make impact. So I was like, okay, here we go. We're going to get in the ice now. Now, okay, everyone can get in the sauna for the most part, but that's what happens when we get in the ice. And so then there was a whole other lady that had a meltdown in the ice, and it was beautiful, right? It's these somatic experiences. You're having these releases, and you can't even explain it. You can't put it into words what's happening. But because it's happened so many times, I kind of like, oh, I know, let's have this conversation, or like, let's do this. And then you get out and you realize whatever fear you're facing, right, it doesn't matter. Physiologically, your body releases the same chemicals, right? You go into fight or flight, you have that, I can't do this, this is too hard, this is too much, it's too overwhelming, I'm not good at the cold. Like, whatever that conversation is.
I like he's pointing at me.
Yeah, it's like,
I had him too.
Because that conversation exists, but the ice, the breath work, the meditation, the stillness, the sauna, it just brings it out of you in a different way. You just want to project onto it, it's the sauna or the ice. But it's everything. I'm not smart enough to take this test, or you name it. I'm not capable. I'm not ready to be a mom, or I'm not ready to be a dad, or I've never done a podcast before. Right. It's all the same conversation, the same energy, just different language. And so then all the class got on the ice, and there was a couple, again, emotional moments. And then me and the girl that had the breakdown in the meditation, I kind of pulled her aside and said, hey, when you get into the ice, this is what I want you to think about. So then she went in there and she just freaking crushed it in the ice. And everyone gets out. Everyone's like talking and laughing. And we go back in the meditation room, and just everything has shifted. Like everything has shifted. And everyone's like, oh, whoa, this is not just a quote unquote personal training studio. And I'm like, that's what I'm trying to get out into the world. Right. It's like, that's like, I told them, so when you walk into the studio, it says Risa Wasi. And so last year, I'm a part of a Native American church called the Eagle and the Condor, and we use ayahuasca as a sacred sacrament. And ayahuasca is a psychedelic plant medicine that has been used in South America for more than 7,000 years. And I've been studying and sitting in these ceremonies since 2016. And so I went to live in the jungle of isolation last year for 3 months to study. And then this year I went back again to study for another month. And so when I left there, I was like, I need to name OPT. It has to have a spiritual name. It's like, for me, I live a spiritual life. I walk a spiritual path. And that doesn't mean, we're having this conversation, you dress a certain way, or you talk a certain way, or you wear a certain amount of clothing. For me, spirituality is knowing who you are. That's it. Know who you are, and that's it. And I think that gets lost. And so for me, when I say that, it's, because I know what I'm doing on this earth. I know what I'm meant to do here, and I want to do that in the best way that I can. And so when I left the jungle, I was like, I have to have a different name for OPT. Yeah, OPT Beyond Fitness, but I need like a spiritual name. Right. So I told my teachers to help me come up with the name, because now they know me. They know all the things that I need to work on. And in my meditation classes, when I work with people, and even that come in to OPT, I always say prayers are like promises. They only work if you do. Because a lot of times people pray and then they just kick back like, something's going to happen.
Right.
And that's how it works with promises. And so I tell people, like, when people come into this place, they're praying for something. They might not actually use it through language, but it's like you're praying for better health. You're praying for less stress or less anxiety. You're praying to get stronger. You're praying to be faster. You're praying to be the best athlete you can be. You're praying for something. And so my teachers came up with this name, Risa Wasi, and it's a Quechua word, and it means house of prayers. So it's like, that's what we are. We're a house of prayers for people to come in and pray. However you pray. It might be on the treadmill. It might be through nutrition. It might be through meditation. But like, you come in here to pray. And that's what you actually participating in the prayer work. You can't just pray and kick back.
Right.
It's like, you got to pray, and then you put forth those actions. And that's how these prayers manifest. And it might not manifest in the way that you think. And that we talked about that with the night class. because as soon as the night class came in, we're in there for 15 minutes and I got 3 ladies crying in the breath work. Now, no one knows is because everyone's eyes are closed and they're breathing. But for me, it's like I'm watching it happen. And I'm like, here we go again. And then I switched the conversation to the night group and I said, you prayed for this. Like you prayed for this, because there was 3 women in that group. They were really emotional. They were going through something or like maybe their path has just been a little bit more, maybe people doubted them or repressed them, or they've been through different things. And so as I'm having this conversation, it's like, you guys prayed for this. They're just like tears are just flowing through their eyes. But it might not look like that. It's like you're here having this conversation in Travis's school for this reason. You have to really believe that. And when you really believe that, things shift and click and turn. And so then the night group came in, had another phenomenal session. Same thing, same conversation, the sauna, ice, emotions just coming out of the ice. People just like, I told that one lady, I said, this is the first time in her life that you have felt liberated. That's what it was. And it was just like, oh, this is happening in this field trip class. But for us, that's the atmosphere I want to facilitate so people can have that. Whether you're a professional athlete, which we work with a lot of professional athletes, if you're just a person coming in to lose weight, a person that just wants to be healthy, or your students, or we work again with sober living communities, however that is, I want to create a space for you to like be the best part of you. And that might look like crying. It might look like screaming. It might look like having a breakdown. That's for you right now. That's the best. That's the best you, meaning it's the most vulnerable you. It's the most intimate part of you. And from there, we can grow. From there, transformation can happen. And so having your students come in and having you witness it, I was like, yes, because it can sound so far out there. Like, man, with this guy, he's freaking crazy. Like, but then it's like back to back. You're like, oh, it wasn't a one-time thing. It's actually like this happens.
I saw it twice. See, here we go again. And they had no idea. The night class. I'm like,
I wouldn't cry because I would be dry of tears from crying on the drive over there, thinking about getting in the ice bath. I'm like, I gotta do this.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was a beautiful experience. And I was like, yeah, man, when you guys left, I told Serene, one of my trainers, that's why I want to get out more. That's why I want to connect with people. That's why I want to speak more, because it's time for us to like really kind of step out of the shadows, because the place that you guys came into, that's the nicest studio I've ever been in. We're always in some back alley in some like like a warehouse type of facility, because that's just kind of like I've had to just make it work. I've had to make my business work and get by. But now everything with like the organization and like just our marketing strategy and like everything we've now put together in such a more organized and concise way. So then when we have opportunities like this, we don't miss. Like we do not miss. We have it all worked out to where it's only goodness that can come of these opportunities, So thank you for having your class come in, and you created that just by being open to experiences.
Yeah, well, I've been subjected to like breath work before. Jennifer can attest to this. Our very first term here in Arizona, Jennifer was a student. And we had one of my good buddies from Oregon come down. He's a swing coach. He's a golf professional, mobilitist. He works on mobility. But one of his other things is breath work. He's a big believer in breath work. And he said he wanted to come down and do a workshop. I'm like, absolutely. Love to have you. So I asked him what he was going to do. And he said, yeah, we'll go over, mobility stuff. We'll go over some square breathing. I'm like, oh, perfect. I had no idea he was going to introduce power breathing to everybody. We had 10 people in class. And the same thing happened, but Blaine went for like 20, 25 minutes. Yeah. And at the end of that, I'm like, what's going on, first of all? I didn't know about power breathing at the moment. I knew about square breathing. I practiced that because of him. But he did power breathing for like 25 minutes. You can imagine after like 6 minutes, we had some breakthroughs, right? 20 minutes, Jennifer remembers.
It was powerful.
Her, we had a guy from Idaho, big giant jack guy. He just looked like he was closed off to the world. He opened up. That cracked him because he also had some trauma in his life as well. And I'm pretty sure that after that moment, he was just a little bit different. He came to some of the things that he was repressing came up, and he had to deal with them. Because I think that's what happens with breath work. When I was sitting there both times, I just had thoughts come up. I'm like, where are you coming from? Where have you been? Why am I thinking about this?
It's like ready to release. It's like,
It's like your body's like, finally get this toxin out of you.
Yeah,
and it's just like thoughts I haven't had in forever. I don't, it's not a part of my daily thought process. You know, I'm like, hey, where have you been? That happened both times.
Yeah.
And it was both times the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's incredibly powerful. But I think for people to be vulnerable, they need to be in a place that allows that. And I think that's what you provide. I mean, I think it's just so easy in your facility with you, with Serene, Ryan. You just feel like you're like at home. It's a weird feeling. It's just like it's a great vibe. And I think without that, if you were like jack bodybuilders, nobody's gonna be vulnerable.
Correct.
But your personalities are perfect for what you're doing, and I think that just facilitates people to go, all right, let's see what happens. Let's go with this.
Yeah, and that's the thank you for saying that, because that's kind of what we're trying to cultivate. Even like the professional athletes that work with us, they're so like, whoa, like I didn't know that this is what was going to happen and this is how it's going to change your life. You know, for me, one of my most current athletes, he's a professional baseball player, and we had this whole session where I totally just geeked out on physiology, exercise, as far as how to break down, periodization. He was like, I didn't even know you knew all this stuff. I said, dude, I've been doing this for 20 years, man. But like, for me, it's not necessarily the forefront of what it is we're doing now. But because you've had these questions, I can now answer them for you in a way that I can make sure that whatever you do moving forward, you're safe. There's going to be progress. You know how to monitor it. You don't get burnt out. And you now have your own filter because there's so many exercises now. There's thousands of exercises. But now you have a filter to which one am I going to do? Which one am I not? How often do I do it? How intense? Because he came in and it was more like, mindset, breath work, ice bath, and it's just completely, again, like it's morphed into this whole inclusive package. But these are the things that changed my life. Like I got into health and fitness to change my life, and then I got into meditation and breath work because my life was sideways. You know, I was drinking and using drugs at 12.
Oh wow!
And so, like my whole life was sideways. And so then I'm like, man, my life is really messed up. I gotta figure this out for my business, or my business is gonna suffer. And so that's how I even got into that stuff. And so you brought up a really good point, is like, hey, when I did breath work and these thoughts came up out of nowhere, it's because you have to sit with yourself. And most of the time we don't. We think we're sitting with ourselves, but we're watching TV or we're having a conversation or we're on the phone or distracted.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And like even for me, you go to different meditation classes, to each their own. But the whole time there's singing and dancing and music, and it's, again, just nothing but distractions. So you don't have to sit with it. And for us, I just felt the group. I was like, we're not doing nothing. I'm only doing breath. I'm not going to play the bowls. I'm not going to play my shruti box. I'm literally, you guys are just going to breathe, because then you get uncomfortable and you get like, oh, whoa. And for me, when I teach meditation, I say meditation is the deepest form of just contemplation. I want you to think. It's not about removing thoughts and don't think about anything. Feel now. Be in the present. It's like, no, you need to think through all this stuff because it's just clutter that's blocking up, so you can never just relax. So however long this takes, you're going to clear through all these thoughts, but then you burn through all of these thoughts, and now you're like, oh,
there's the piece.
There's the piece, or there's the one missing clue that I need to apply to my life. Because I want people to leave meditation not feeling good. I want people leaving meditation being like, here's the next step I need to take.
Right.
Or here's the next thing I need to accept. Or it's okay to feel this emotion. That's how I want you to leave meditation and breathwork with me, not just, oh, love and light, and and then all of a sudden you hit traffic and there's, you know, a pile of cars and you're like, get out of the effing way. It's like, what the heck? I thought you were supposed to go, I thought you were doing meditation. You know,
you should be all zen.
I want you to contemplate about your life.
Yeah.
You know, and so then, like, to your point, it's like, perfect. That's exactly what I want to happen. And then whatever you do with that is up to you, or you have us be your coaches. You know, we help you work through all of that stuff, you know. And so it's just so awesome that so much happened in those two classes that I think some of your students are now going to come in and they're going to do another breathwork, sauna, ice bath, because they were like, oh my God, like what was that? You know, it's really fun, man. It's really fun. And that's for me, why I love doing what I do still. And it's kept me without burning out. Again, because I can do the weights and all that stuff, but you've done it, you know, thousands and thousands of times. There has to be something now that I can take with me to the workout floor. You know, if like hypothetically that girl came in and did a workout, mentally I know where she's at. So it makes the workouts a lot more impactful because now I can mentally cue her to frame her exercises in this way that she can visualize her working through something or overcoming something or battling where this thought shows up in her life elsewhere.
Right.
And then that's how you change someone's life. Right.
Well, and that's when you talked about like embodiment, right? So that connection to spirit, because we're not just the physical bodies. And so I love how you bring it all together because it does. It's like we hold those patterns in our bodies. We hold, and that holds us back in so many other areas of our life that we can't even necessarily consciously see or logically make sense of. And so I love that you're kind of bringing that all together, and you've got the, you know, the science or the physiology, but you're blending it with the spirit because you do, once you sort of allow yourself to open up, to be vulnerable. I mean, it's amazing. Like you were talking about just the synchronicities of when you connected with Travis, and now you're on the podcast, and how things are starting to unfold. It's like things show up in ways that you don't expect once you kind of plant that energetic seed and you start taking those steps, whatever those look like.
You made me think of something because like that's what we do, right? The mind, body, spirit. And I think for me, as being in this field for so long, like I have a lot of resentment towards the health and fitness industry because we talked a little bit about this with your class. It's turned into this whole thing that it's not. It's like you just have to look a certain way and dress a certain way and you're considered a fitness professional. You throw up a few healthy meals and now you're a nutrition coach. And it takes all of like what it is that the educated or experienced, like, hey, what is going on? People don't really care about that kind of stuff. And that's the same thing. You hear these different, fitness studios, mind, body, spirit. And I'm like, man, you don't do nothing with the spirit. You're just saying that. You're just saying that because you think it sounds good. But you don't know a thing about actually helping someone not only break yourself open, but then what do you do with it? Right? What do you do with it when someone breaks open? And so that was so great about the girl in your first class is like, here we go. And then this is how you move through something like this. Don't shut it down or everyone has to rescue her. Like, let her have her room to breathe. And so then that's been hard for me too, because then I see these other training studios that will be like mind, body, spirit. I'm like, man, you're saying that, but that's not what you're doing.
That's because they offer meditation.
Yeah. And so that's been definitely hard for me to navigate. You know, that's my own like shadow self coming through. I'm like, oh my God, this freaking place, like, this is unbelievable. But
maybe places like that, like plant a seed for somebody to like begin to make the shifts that lead them to you.
Yeah, Instagram ads. I got to up my Instagram ad.
So what does what are your like prices or packages set up? Do you charge just like training someone? Is that what you do, or is it a monthly subscription?
Yeah,
or?
so we do monthly. So we do monthly like group classes.
Okay.
So we have group classes. People can come in and just work out. So like one of the things as I started to blend, right? I started to blend the things that I'm into with training. It at first was it could clash because I didn't have separate spaces for meditation. And so everything was kind of in the same room. And I bring all this up because it's changed the way that we structure our pricing. Because if you come in, you don't have to do meditation. You don't have to do breath work. It's like, if you don't want to do that, that's totally fine. We'll just work out, you know, and I'll change your life through that no matter what. So, I mean, this is just an option because I don't ever want to feel forced. Now, when you sign up, I tell everyone the benefits of the meditation, the breath work, the sauna, the ice. And of course, they end up doing it because it's like, well, like, why not? And especially with the sauna and the ice. So we have memberships. If you have a membership with us, it includes sauna, ice, and the working out. We do the meditation and breathwork classes completely separate. We just do drop-in for that. So we do group training, we do one-on-one training, and then I do personal, like private coaching, like personal growth coaching. I just finished my first book. It's like a 30-page little booklet. It's called the OPT Medicine Wheel, a holistic guide to personal transformation. And it's just for like beginners. And it's free because I want people to, you can have these tools. You can learn about these tools. You can learn about these things. And if you apply it, you'll change your life. This is what changed my life. This is not only what helped me get sober, it's what's helped me stay sober. Yes, there was a lot of counseling and therapy and retreats and countless ceremonies like sweat lodges and vision quests and prayer ceremonies, and then my times in the jungle, like, oh yeah, all of that. But here are the fundamental principles to change your life. And so then people can come, we call it the Genesis program. And then, so we have that. So we have group training, we have the meditation breath work, and we have the Genesis program. And then it's monthly, month to month. I don't do like, you got to be with me for a year or anything like that. But I was telling the class, I have people that have been training me for like a decade. Like this lady's lost 50 pounds. Like she still wants to just be a part of the community,
That's awesome.
I have athletes that I've been training since they were like 8 years old, and so for me, like we try to make it as simple as possible and not like offer like too many different things.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is the sanitation policies or for an ice bath? Because I have no idea. And I know that like at the gym you can go get in the hot tub with a bunch of other people. Is it do you have to change that out all the time?
So we change the water probably every 7 days.
Okay.
7 to 10 days, depending on how many people come in. We filter it twice a week. And then, so what happens is we have people and they rinsed off. Like you got to rinse off all of your
before you
sweat,
get in,
deodorant, lotion, all of that stuff.
Right.
And then we change the water, like I said, about every 7 days. But we filter it twice a week. But then sometimes we change the water sooner than later, just because like it might be every 3 or 4 days. If we have a huge influx of people, there's like 40
right.
people. But just so you know, in the 3.5 years that we've done it, we've never had anyone get an infection. We've had no one get sick. Because that's a good question. It's a valid question.
And that's what I was wondering is I was like, the hot tub kind of burns off some of that stuff, but the ice bath, I didn't know what that what that procedure was.
If anyone has like an open cut or anything, we don't let them get in. We don't let them get in.
So I just cut myself before I come and I don't have to get in. Travis is shaking his head.
You're
like,
not getting
nope,
out of this.
You're not getting out of it. Like, I just have to hold my arm up if it's
And then the same
it's a
thing
cut on my arm.
Halloween blood.
Yeah. And then the same thing with the sauna. They make the saunas out of cedar because it's mold resistant.
Right.
And we go in there, we scrub it. We have there's like a whole cleaning protocol that comes with the sauna. And so we've never had an issue. We've had no one get sick or infections or anything. Because it's a valid question. We get a lot. And so,
That thing gets hot.
210. Our sauna gets up to 210.
I think we were sitting at 190 Wednesday night. About that. It's hard to breathe, man.
Yeah. And then one of my clients got in. She was like, "It's not even hot in here."
Yeah. Wednesday night?
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean?
One of our clients got in and she sat down and she was like, maybe 5 minutes in, I come in to check on the crew and she's like, "Joey, there's something wrong. It's not even hot in here." And it was like 190, but she's used to like
the 210.
210, 200, you know? So
myself and the students are looking at each other like, what do you mean it's not hot?
Yeah, they were like, "This girl's crazy."
Yeah.
But my wife and I went to one of those salt bath like things that you lay in that it's like full of salt.
The float tanks.
The float tanks. Both of us had a cold after that. Like a couple of days later, we both got sick.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I'm like, wonder, because I think they're supposed to change that out like almost every time.
I don't think it was that.
I don't know what else it would have been because it was, but I've heard other people say the same thing. So that's,
I've done them a few times. I never gotten sick. I don't know, but I can't.
Those things are weird. You're just floating there and can't feel anything at all.
Have you ever done a float tank?
No,
you should do a field trip.
I want to try it.
See if one of the places would let you guys do a field trip, because that would be. I think the float tanks are awesome.
Yeah,
but they're like $65, $75 a pop, like to do it. So I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna. I can't afford. I'll just get in the ice bath and sauna. I'm good. But they're awesome. I've done it like 4 or 5 times.
Is it the same thing as like a sensory deprivation tank?
That's what it is.
That's
exactly what it is.
So salt water. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you literally can't feel anything at all. It's like you're floating. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Joey, I have a question. So you were talking about, when we started off, you were talking about how as an entrepreneur, one of the things that's been challenging for you is like the marketing, right? And it's just not part of who you are. It's like not what you want to do, but you want to make the impact. How did you make this shift? Or like what did you put in place to like help you with that?
You want the honest answer?
Yeah, I do.
So, in 2016 is when I did my first ayahuasca ceremony. That's how I got sober. I haven't touched alcohol or drugs since. And it made such a profound impact on my life. And as you work through these ceremonies, it's all about your life, where you can course correct, how you can course correct. And so prior to my ceremonies, I'd gone through 7 years of therapy, counseling, retreats, personal growth books, self-help books. So I was really trying to figure out, why am I the way that I am? And then I figured out, oh yeah, when you grow up being abused half your life, this is what happens, you know? So it started there, but then as I started to take my business more seriously, I would have a ceremony, and it would be more like, hey man, you need to stop doing this, right? Like, stop doing this, stop portraying it like this. And I share that because this last year when I went out to the Yucatan at this healing center called Kumankaya, in my ceremonies, it was a lot around my business. And it was like, hey, you need to start doing this. You need to stop doing this. You need to do more of this. And I'm like, and I'm just like having the hardest night of my life because I realized, man, like my ego's in the way, or my stubbornness is in the way, or my inability to adapt is in the way. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm literally my worst enemy. Because for me, I just like being me. I just like, oh, I feel like talking about this today. Or I feel like marketing this today. Like I don't, because I don't value social media like that. I value social media because I connect with poets. I connect with artists. I connect with like comedy, you know, like I don't, that's the way that I see social media. It's just like, it's just fun. Really. It's not really, you know, I don't, because if you meet me in person, and that's how I am, like in social media. But maybe if you're someone like looking at me, you've never met me, you might be like, oh, who's this guy wearing a bandana and he's talking about these things in breath work, and he's too scary for me. And so then I'm like, okay, how do I not tone it down, but how do I package it in a way that people understand who I am, understand what it is that we do, understand the benefits of working with us. And so that's really helped me clean up my marketing, my time in the jungle, sitting in 3 months in isolation, thinking about my life, thinking about our skill sets, thinking about, hey, if I don't start taking this more serious in the sense of like organizing, consistency, execution, you're going to lose your business. And your business is too important to lose because of the impact you have on people. So work on it. And so it's totally changed. Like, from our website to our Instagram to my own podcast to that's what helped me get out this free guidebook. You know, it was like, I got to get this out because I want people to have these tools, because when you walk around in life and you meet people who love what they're doing, we talked a little bit about this in the class. When you meet people who love what they're doing, you love being around them.
Right.
But so many times you meet people that are like, how you doing today, Travis? Oh, another day in paradise. Or, you know, just they're dead.
Yep.
You know, they're dead inside. And so for me, I'm like, man, I want more people to live the life that they are passionate about. It could be starting a podcast or 12,000 businesses like yourself, or nutrition coaching, or opening a personal training school, whatever it is, farming, or, you know, that's another thing. Instagram, you find people, ASMR, they're making hundreds of $1,000s a year on YouTube because they're making ASMR videos. But I bet you if you're around them because they love what they're doing, they're awesome people. And so for me, being in the jungle that last year for 3 months, it was like, oh, whoa, I got to like really kind of fine tune it even more. And I'm not that kind of a person. I'm not, again, crossing the T's and dotting the I's is like nails on a chalkboard for me. It's so hard for me to do, which was so interesting about this book that I wrote. I was like, this is easy because I already have hundreds and hundreds of pages. I've been writing since I was in second grade. I have journals from second grade. Like, I love writing. And I was like, Joey, just sit down and organize it all. And that taught me, the jungle taught me how to do that. It's just like, and then that's where my negative self-talk said, I can't do this. This is too hard. Like, this is going to take me forever. Like, there's no way.
Right.
But that's where it kicks in for me. And then 3 weeks later, I'm like, oh, I did it. This is crazy. And so that's helped me a lot, because a lot of these psychedelic ceremonies, and I talk about this because it's a big part of my life. I don't want people to think that I got to this place just by myself. I got here because of, again, the counseling, the therapy, the books, my teachers, my guides, my coaches, my Native American traditions, and then through these sacred plant ceremonies. This is how it all has changed my life in a way that I'm like, oh wow, it's really put it all together for me. I don't want people to think, oh, I was just born like this. That's why I talk about my abuse. That's why I talk about my addictions. It's like,
Right.
how did he get to be like this? It's like, you don't want to know. It's like, it is so hard. And I've had to give up so much and had to clean up so much and had to ask for forgiveness so many times and forgive so many people. It's like, it's so hard, but that's how I got to where I'm at. And so I want to give credit to my teachers and my ceremonies and my counselors and teachers and to the plants, you know? And so with these things, it's like, that's how I've cleaned it up to make it even more sharp or so people understand what it is that we do, how we do it, and the benefits of doing it this way. So that way we attract more people and we don't miss out on opportunities. Because, for example, how many people have wanted to ask me that question? You asked me about the water, but they just make assumptions. So like, I'm not getting that water. It's probably dirty. There's probably parasites in there. And it's a real fear.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, how do I explain to people this is our process to keep the water clean and that we've never had someone get sick or whatever?
And I wasn't
right?
asking because I was worried about it or anything like that. I was just wondering, like, it just kind of popped into my head. So,
but I'm just saying, so many people might think like that,
Right.
And I don't want to do that or get in the sauna with all, oh, don't touch me, we're all sweaty. Like,
Right.
They freak out about that kind of stuff. So then, how do I make sure that the way that we're talking about it or marketing it answers those questions for people?
just do a video of and post to Instagram of cleaning it and changing out the water and put on the outlet.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
So I have a buddy that does ayahuasca like once or twice a year. Jeff. Yeah, Jeff
I
does
believe that.
ayahuasca once or twice a year, and he just says it's the greatest thing ever.
I wouldn't say all that.
He says the process of going through it is the roughest thing in his life he's ever had to do, but what he comes out of that from, you know, with how it makes him feel and stuff. But no, he says the process is horrible. He's like the vomiting and the and stuff. He's like, this is just, it's awful, but he's like, it's so eye-opening.
Yeah, it'll change. That's what, again, it's how I got sober. And I'd been trying to get sober since I was like 21, 20, when I realized I have a problem, you know, and I just couldn't shake it. I could not shake it. And that's how I got it, is just that first ceremony. It was like brutal. It's like getting drugged through hell, depending on the person, right? Depends on the person and like where you're at in your life, things that you have to straighten out. Right. Like, you know, because now my ceremonies aren't like that. You know, my ceremonies are way different now.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, I'm studying. That's why I went down there for 3 months, because I'm apprenticing, you know, so for me, being a part of this church is I want to bring Native Americans to these ceremonies to heal, because so many of our Native American, you know, relatives, it's like alcohol, drugs, abuse, trauma, but there's no, a lot of it is old school AA, don't drink, don't do drugs, you know, white knuckle your sobriety. And I'm like, man, this is old. Yeah. We as a people need to, we deserve to have the same opportunities as everybody else. And so I'm a part of another program called the Native American Reciprocity Project, started by Dr. Joe Tafur. And it's for Native Americans to get ketamine therapy for free. Because a lot of these things in these spaces, and which is, again, like one of my problems with these spaces, we're going to do all these tests on soldiers that have PTSD, which I want them to do. But I'm like, hey, what about all the Native Americans that have PTSD from all the things, that generational trauma that have happened on the reservation for hundreds of years? What about us? You always forget about us.
Right.
And that's what all these other people get, modern medicine and modern up-to-date things. And for us, I'm not speaking for every Native American, but the people that I work with, right? I've worked with thousands of Native Americans over the past 3 years through our program, the Sober Monk Society. And I'm like, man, you guys we're just beating our heads against the wall. But if I could get you involved in something like ketamine, which is legal, right? It's like, how do I get you guys into these things where your walls completely come down in a way that you can't get there just by thinking about it? I think that's what's one of the most misunderstood things, is you can't get there by just thinking about it. You have to have an experience to help you heal through these things in a healthy way with doctors And so that's why it's so great with Dr. Joe Tafur and Dr. Katie Walsh and Dr. Amalia Baca. They're the ones that do the Native American Reciprocity Project. And I've seen it, what it does for people. And so for me, going down to do the training to learn these things, which I still have a lot training to do. By no means am I even close to like that part, but I'm doing it so I can bring natives to ceremonies to get this type of healing that I got. Now, it might not happen because I would really want it to get sober. You have to really want sobriety.
Right.
Just like anyone, if we're working out, if you want to lose weight, you got to really want to lose weight. You can tell me that, and you can eat good for 2 or 3 weeks. You can yo-yo, but for you shared with me your weight loss story, you got to really want that.
Right.
You got to really, really want that in order for it to happen. And so it's the same thing with sobriety. So just because you go to the gym and show up, whatever, doesn't mean you're going to get the results you want. Just because you sit in a ceremony doesn't mean you're going to be sober or get the healing you want. It's really how bad do you want it. And for me, for 7 years, like I said, I was trying to just heal myself or get myself in a way that my life was functioning. And so I think that's what was a little bit of difference about my journey into that world, that why it was so effective for me.
Right.
Can you talk more about these groups that you hold at OPT?
Yeah, man. So
because you had one coming in right when we were leaving, and there was a lot of people there.
So how this started, which is again to your point, like synchronicity. So in 2017, we were in a transition of buildings, like from one building to the next. And in that time, before I was trying to find a building, I was working out in a Phoenix, Scottsdale area. And I wasn't teaching meditation or breathwork then. Again, this stuff I just did for my own self. And at this training studio I was at, I do my breathwork and meditation daily. And this professional golfer, he was on the PGA Tour at the time. He saw me and was like, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm just doing like my breathwork meditation." He said, I watch you every day and you do this. He said, "Do you think you could teach me how to do this?" And I was like, "Sure." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay." And I was like, "But first, I need to sit down to see what it is that you want to learn or like why." So then we did a couple of meditation sessions and he loved it. And I was like, here's this guy who's the top 150 golfer in the world. He likes meditation. I was like, I wonder if more people would like meditation. Because for me, it was just to fix my life. So I was like, I'm going to advertise, I'm going to do a meditation class. And in my first meditation class, I had 28 people show up. I was like, oh my God, I guess this is a thing. So I'm just going to start teaching. And so I bring that up because then I left out there and I came back to Mesa. And I was like, whoa, people want to learn meditation and breathwork. So I've been teaching it now for 2 years at the time. And then COVID happened. And I was like, I don't know what we're going to do. For me, I stayed open. I just kind of locked everything up and we stayed open. And when we talked about this in the class too, like for me with health and fitness, one of my other resentments or beefs I have, it's for a certain demographic. You got to make this amount of money. You got to eat this way. It's not for people who are going through poverty, which another lady in your class, we talked about that. It's like people who are in poverty, they need help. Yeah. They can't get the organic chicken or the organic eggs. They don't have access to that.
Right.
And especially on the reservation, this is what we are forced to eat. We are forced to eat canned foods or flour or sugar. Like everything was taken. And so then you look at the native population and why they're so unhealthy. That's what happens when you get all of your land taken from you and there's a genocide that happens and you get moved from one little place to the other. And it's like, well, here, you're going to rely on the government for all of your food.
And there's a lot of diabetics too, right?
So this goes into the groups. So when COVID happened, one of this program started bringing Native Americans out of Navajo Nation. So in the entire U.S., Navajo Nation got hit the worst with COVID. More people died in Navajo Nation than the U.S. Yeah. And the reason that is because they're diabetes. And the way that the media spun that, I get really worked up about it because they try to use that as like spread it across the U.S. Oh, all these people around the U.S. are dying. No, it's Native Americans that are dying. And it's coming from this part. That's who's dying. And why? Is because there's a big part of our population that is unhealthy. But why are we unhealthy? Right? It's the generational trauma. It's the abuse. It's the alcoholism. It's the drug addiction. It's that there's no help.
Right.
There's no help when you go out to some of these places. You go out to some of the places on the reservation on Navajo Nation, they don't even they're using wood to heat their houses.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, what? We're in 2023 and there's people still heating their houses with wood? That's crazy to me, man.
Is that part of just the Native Americans not wanting those services and stuff to come in there, or is it more of the government's just like, yep, screw you, we're not going to do that?
So a little side tangent. It's more of, here, when the reservations were created, it's like, here, do your thing. Here's this money. Figure
Right.
it all out. It's just figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
And then parts of the reservation, like where I went to Gallup last week, where you're 4 hours away from anything.
Oh yeah,
You're
Gallops.
not, or excuse me, Tuba City, but you're not anywhere. You know,
Right.
when I went to Wounded Knee a few years ago, like when you're at Wounded Knee, you're 3.5, 4 hours from anything. So guess what? Teachers don't want to go out there. Coaches don't want to go out there. Counselors
Right.
don't want to go out there. It's not like, you can drive 15 minutes and you're in the city.
Right.
And so then it's not necessarily even a choice. It's that they don't have, again, I'm not speaking for every reservation. I'm not speaking for every tribe. I'm
Right.
just saying for what I've been a part of, what I've experienced, and the communities that I work with now, that is their experience. And the resources aren't there. And the lack of accessibility isn't even there.
Is that part of that coming from TV and movies, where it's like, white lady's a teacher, she's not allowed to go to the reservation and teach. You know what I mean? How that's portrayed sometimes in TV and movies.
That's really interesting that you say. I think part of it can be attributed to that, but it's like no one knows about the reservations. Like
Right.
everyone thinks, again, never mind. Not everybody. Many people think, oh, I grew up with this. Oh, you're going to get money. You get money. I get no money. I never
Right.
have gotten a check ever from my tribe, ever. Not every tribe has casinos. Not every tribe has these things.
Sure.
And so when you, like, for example, if you live here in Scottsdale, Salt River, Pima community's big, they're right in the dead center of, that's Casino, Arizona. So their tribe is completely different than other tribes, but they still struggle with the same issues in terms of addiction and things like that.
Right.
And that goes into like a really deep part of generational trauma, when you're stripped of your traditions, when you're stripped of your culture, when you're stripped of your language,
Right.
and then you don't have access to heal, right?
Yeah.
You don't have these things. And so it's not necessarily that people aren't allowed in, but it's more of people don't know.
Right.
And for example, let's say Travis is the best personal training coach out there in the world. And I'm like, hey, man, I want you to come out and bring your family to, let's just say, Tuba City. But then you go out there and you're like, well, there's nothing like around here. Like, I
Right.
might be the best coach, but there's like nothing around here. It's not a city. You see what I'm saying? So then
Oh,
people
no,
are like,
yeah,
well,
for
I don't
sure.
really want to, I don't know if I want to live here, but I also don't want to drive 3.5 hours one way each day for work. And so then
Yeah.
you're just kind of pulling from a small pool of people. And so I bring all this up because how I got started was this organization started because of COVID. So they were bringing people from Navajo Nation to live at this hotel for free to get them away from COVID. And they were looking for Native American teachers exclusively because, to your point, some natives, they do have that. They
Right.
have that the resentment towards quote unquote white people, or anger. It's like, you're white. What do you know about me? What do you know about
Right.
my culture? What do you know about what I'm going through? You don't, so I don't want to listen to you.
Right.
And I can relate because when I was growing up, if you were talking to me about addiction or abuse, whatever, it's like, have you been abused? No. What do you have? The conversation's over.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you struggling with an addiction? Then the conversation's over because you don't know what it's like to be me.
Right.
And so there is some of that. And so this organization was trying to be very culturally sensitive, and they were looking for a Native American breathwork teacher. And so my friend, shout out to Medina, she was a nurse, nutrition coach for the guy who started this company. And Medina had come to my classes, me and Medina, like, we're super tight. She's seen the magic in real life. She was like, you got to call my friend Joey. He does breathwork and meditation. And so I'm just sitting at the studio one day, again, like not even thinking about any of this. I get a call. Hey, can you come down for an interview? We're looking for a Native American breathwork teacher. We heard about you. I had no idea that this was going to be a thing. So then I get there, I do the interview, and I go into my first class there, and there's probably 60 to 70 people in this one room. Everyone's masked up, right? Everyone's like doing this social distance. And my heart just like broke. 'Cause I'm like, oh man, this is like, there's so much fear happening right now.
Right.
Especially coming from Navajo Nation. So I want to be really careful about how I approach this and the things I share, because I want to be sensitive to their experience. So then, you know, 1 class goes by, 2 class goes by, 3 class goes by, 4 class goes by. And then I'm the most popular class in the whole entire, there's like 250 people there.
Wow.
You know, so then I'm teaching 2 classes a week. Then I'm like, okay, I can make a bigger impact though. I'm leaving so much on the table by just doing breathwork with you guys. Like, you guys should be working out. You guys should be doing sauna. You guys should be doing ice. Like, you guys need this. Like, you need this.
Right.
So then different counselors would leave, different students would leave. But then whenever they go to a different program, hey, you got to hit this guy Joey up. Hey, you got to call this guy Joey. He does these breathwork classes, and he's native, and he does his altar, and he smudges. And so then I kept getting these calls from all these different places of like, hey, man, we heard good things about you. This counselor worked with you. This doctor worked with you, you know. And because for me, I'm like, yeah, come in and see what I do. You know, I'm not relying on my credentials. I'm not relying that I'm famous or, man, this guy's got 250 Instagram followers. He must be good at what he does. I'm like, hey, come in and experience it, and you be the judge, and then you tell me. So then it just kept growing and growing and growing. And all these are all sober living communities, right? And now that I see my life unfolding is like, this is why I went through the abuse. This is why I went through the trauma. This is why I went through the family dysfunction, my alcoholism, my drug addictions. Because now here I am, 8 years sober, going through all this stuff. When you talk to me about this, it's like, man, this guy, he's one of us. He did it. And now I'm saying I want to do these ceremonies because it's like, I also use this though. And I want to bring, when you're ready, Native Americans that have these types of healing experiences to be like, you know what? Native Americans aren't alcoholics. We're not overweight. We're not diabetic. And I talk a lot about to my classes, 100 years ago, you couldn't find a diabetic Native American. You can't find an overweight Native American until the reservation started.
Right.
That's when the disease hit our people. Yeah. And it's like, man, that's sickness.
Yeah. And I'm sure COVID was hard because it's like, hey, Native Americans, trust us. We're the government.
Yeah.
I was like, nope, not going to do that again.
Yeah. And so then we call it the OPT Sober Monk Society. And the reason that is I read this article. This was like last year. These monks in Thailand got busted for doing meth and selling meth. Like,
oh geez.
Right. And I was like, I was like laughing because so many, we think that if you're quote unquote a spiritual person, that we elevate you to this level of you're holy.
You're not going to do anything wrong.
You're not going to do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And for me, working with Native Americans, it's like we can easily, oh, Joey has all the answers, or this person has all the answers, or this person's going to fix us. And I'm like, that's what a lot of people think of when they think of a monk. You're perfect. You're holy. You don't do anything wrong.
They're human, though.
They are human.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand that within yourself, like I'm just as susceptible to anything as you are, then you fall. And so I like started to share this article everywhere because for me, I'm like, man, everyone thinks these monks are these holy people, but this is just one of many things that done. Same thing with yoga teachers, like that get all kind. They start like sex cults or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I'm always trying to bring Native American spirituality to the forefront of the conversation. Like it's like I want people to know that these Native American spiritual teachings have been around for thousands of years, but we never got a chance to share it with the people because we were murdered for it. We were genocided for it. Right. So we never actually got a chance to share what it is that we actually know and what it is that we practice. And so then I'm like, but monks get, like everyone puts these monks up on the table. And so it's kind of like this OPT Sober Monk Society. It's like, yeah, man, you're a monk. You're a monk. You're a monk. We're all monks. You just haven't realized it yet. And so that's why I call this group the OPT Sober Monk Society. Because it's like, man, I don't care how many times you've fallen from grace. I believe in you. I care about you. And it's like, one day when you believe in yourself the way that I believe in you, it changes. And guess what? You realize that you're the monk all along, you know? And so that's why we call it the OPT Sober Monk Society.
That's
is
awesome.
to remind them, like, it doesn't matter if you fall, like, because monks fall, you know?
Right.
So that's kind of that. And that's now we work with, I want to say 4 different organizations now that are sober living communities. And they're not all just Native American. Some of them are Native American, but some of them are just everyone. Like everyone comes in and out. And then, you know, when I talk to the people that are in these programs, one of the things is when you're going through addiction or you're going through substance abuse issues, you feel like you're less than people in the world. Oh, like I'm on a lesser tier. And when I tell them, I said, man, there's not a person in here that comes into my studio that isn't addicted to something. The world just hides it better. Oh, you have to have a glass of wine every single night. Oh, you got to watch 7 hours of this or social media this. Or, hey, if I asked you, because when I go on these diets, right? No coffee, no caffeine, no sugar, no salt, no fat. All I can eat is rice and fish, bananas and apples. And I was like, you want to figure out your addictions? Oh, my God, they come flying up.
Like, I didn't know I missed that.
Correct. And I'm like, I don't know a single person that's not addicted to something. And it can be an emotional addiction.
Right.
It could be a thought addiction. It could be your perspective on life and addiction. I said, so I don't ever want you guys to think that you're broken or that you're dysfunctional. You just are wearing it for the world to see. And these people that claim they don't have addictions are just better at hiding it than you are. And that's all the difference is between you and them. And I want you guys to know that I value you just as much as any of these other people. And so then a lot of times when they come in, they're interacting with my clients. They're getting in the sauna with my clients. They're getting in the ice with my clients because it's like you guys, we're all the same. We're all human at the end of the day.
Right.
And there is no, oh, I'm here and you're here because you live in a sober living home and I live in a house or an apartment, but I still hate my life and I'm drowning myself in food and alcohol and sugar and whatever you name it. It's like it's all the same. Yeah. So that's the OPT Sober Monk Society.
Love that.
That's awesome. So where is your facility located?
We are in Mesa on Country Club and Baseline.
Okay. Oh, so you're not far from the school at all.
Not at all. No,
It's like 8 minutes, right?
8 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So we'll be back.
Yeah.
We're definitely going back.
Yeah.
I think
got it.
I need to go for a breath work and a.
Yes, absolutely,
idea.
absolutely. Both of you guys need to come.
Yeah.
I'll
Josh.
go. I'll go if you go.
I'll go.
If you jump in, Josh will jump in.
I'll go. Yeah, I'll go.
But real quick, you and I got started at the same place, 24-Hour Fitness.
Yeah, yeah. Which one did you start at?
Well, I was in Beaverton, Oregon.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
But you have got a pretty funny story about your first day.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I shared this with the class. And again, just goes to show like synchronicities and lining up. So I'm 19 years old, right? I just got done 24-Hour Fitness. What was this? Apex. They had this Apex. I don't know if you were there when they were doing the Apex protocol.
I think so.
So
yes.
I think Apex was just like a sister company to NASM. Anyways, so I just got my Apex certification and now I'm ready to be a trainer. And so I'm 19. I go out on the floor. I got my first client. She's probably, now looking back, she's probably mid-30s. It's 5 o'clock, prime time hours. Like everyone's in the gym, 24-Hour Fitness, right? Rocking. And we're probably maybe 15 minutes into our workout. And she starts crying, like hysterically bawling. And I have my clipboard, my stopwatch, and everyone in the gym is looking at me. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, what is happening? I'm like, are you hurt? Are you okay? And I'm freaking out. And she's like, my husband wants me to look like a cheerleader and I don't look like a cheerleader and I just hate my body. And she's bawling and everyone's staring at me and I'm like, oh, and my God. And I don't know how to handle that. So I'm like, well, let's get back to lunges. Get in your front plank. And then I share that story with the class because it was kind of like here, this is going to be your actual journey with personal training. And it was the craziest thing because my school didn't prepare me for it. They didn't never once talk to me about it at ASU. None of my certifications, none of the books that I read ever said that this is going to happen. And then how do you handle it? Because I didn't have a response then. I just was like, you know what I mean? Like, and then it was just such a weird phenomena that happened to me. My very first client, my very first day of training. But here I am almost 20 years later. And now I'm like,
It's like a preview.
it's like, here it is. Oh, this lady is crying and she walked in the class late and here we go. It's like, I'm ready for it now.
Yeah.
Which is it was crazy to think about that.
Yeah, it is. My first day wasn't like that. But I did have people cry. And yeah, kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
What did I do wrong? But you see that a few times, and you're like, it's not me. There's something going on with this person.
Yeah.
So I love that you've got the tools to help people, understand themselves and peel their own onion, so to speak. Because sometimes like you said, the last time I sat by myself like I did the first time last week, it'd been a long time. I haven't done that in probably years, if not decades. Because I'm like, okay, here we are alone with ourselves. No distractions. It's just me. What's this damn thought coming up to my head right now? I push that thing down. And now it's floating up to the top. And
It's going to come up again. Yeah.
And what I love about having you participate, or even other teachers or counselors when they come in, I encourage them to participate, because you can take off your hat as teacher, coach, husband, guide, whatever, dad. I can take that hat off and just be me.
Yeah.
And it's like a very weird feeling, because we don't do that.
It is weird.
It's just 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so that's why we start there. It's just that slow little bit.
We just live in a world of noise, and it's hardly ever quiet. Hardly ever quiet. I mean, social media, TV, kids,
Text
relationships,
messaging,
work,
Yeah.
you name it, emails. It's nonstop. So just taking that time out, that was really strange for me.
Yeah. And we, to your point, we don't allow people to take cell phones or books in the sauna. It's like, no, you're going to just, you either communicate with your fellow people in there suffering with you,
right,
or you're just by yourself and just think and breathe and let all of that burn off, because you always feel so much better when you do it.
Right.
So that's why, we encourage that.
Yeah. Jeez, that's amazing. I'm ready to go back again.
Yeah.
Doors are open. Doors are open.
No, I do want to try the ice bath, but I know it's going to hurt. It's going to be like, it's going to be really a lot.
It sounds powerful.
Yeah, it will be. You'll be right. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
We haven't had anyone die yet, so.
Well, that's what I was talking about. I have a really good heart because I do run a lot, so I have a good heart. But I'm like, I feel like if I got in that water, I'd just have a heart attack and die. Like, oh no.
We'll make sure you sign a waiver. So. Yeah.
There's a first time for everything.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, there's a lot that I want to ask. Not almost everything's been covered, but I want to know about the time. What was it like to be down in the jungle? When you got there, did you know what to expect?
Oh my God. So this goes back to in 2012. I went to Peru for the first time with fundraising. Through OPT, we were building a school in Peru. So I've been to Peru 5 times now. 3 of the times, or 4 times, 3 of the times was to build this school. And so I've been familiar with the jungle, right? And the school, again, was in the middle of, it's a city called Charapa. You're nowhere, no running water, no electricity. You live in like a bamboo. It's like literally wood. No, mud and like bamboo stick and tin. That's what we lived in, right? And so I went down the first time with my coworker at the time. The second time I brought 4 of my college athletes with me. The third time I went, we did 14 OPT athletes. All went down to Peru to help build this school.
That's
it was
great.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
This was all before I started doing ceremony work, right? So then I went down again to Peru to do ceremony work. But we lived in the jungle, but it wasn't like I lived in the jungle this time. Like it was not even the same thing. And I want to say I was prepared, because Vision Quest is a Native American tradition, and depending on the tribe and tradition, the way that that way I've done it, you go out into the desert. Where we do it is out in the desert. You're by yourself. The space that you're in is probably the size of this table, and you're there for 4 days by yourself, no food, just water. Males can't have a tent. You can have a sleeping bag, but you can't have anything else, and you just sit there. That's it. You just sit there and you think about life. And it's literally the most, I would say that's what turned my life around more than, other than the ayahuasca ceremony. I had started doing ayahuasca this 1 year before I did my first Vision Quest. The Vision Quest is what, like, I'm sober now, but the Vision Quest was like, oh, this is how you completely change your life. So I had done a few Vision Quests now up into my time last year in the jungle. And I thought I was ready, right? I thought I was ready to go. I know what it's going to be like. I've been to the jungle before. I'm going to be fine. I was not. I'd never been to the jungle under these circumstances. The heat, the humidity, the lack of calories, again, no fat, no salt, no sugar, no caffeine, no stimulation, no cell phone for 3 months. and I'm like, I have this thing with like bugs. Like there's just so many bugs and just spiders everywhere and scorpions. And I'm just like, oh, I think I might have a little bit of a phobia. And how stressed, like I just in nature am a more stressful, anxious person because of the things that I've been through. Yeah. So my somatic experience, my nervous system is geared more towards sympathetic than it is parasympathetic. And so then I don't know anybody out there. I've never done this type of experience before. And it was very, very challenging. And it took me about 6 weeks, 7 weeks for me to actually like learn how to like relax. I mean, I was doing my breath work every day. I was doing my meditation every day, but it's so hot. Like I said, it's like 100 degrees. I went in the middle of the freaking summer in the Yucatan and it's like 100% humidity. So I can't even sleep at night. You know, I'm like, I'm getting like 2 to 3 hours of sleep every night. I'm tossing, I'm turning, I'm sweating. There's bugs, there's scorpions, there's spiders. I'm like, I don't know if I've ever been more stressed out in my entire life. And what that brought out in me, thought patterns, again, perspective, my anger, my irritability, my stubbornness. Again, these diets that you go on, these experiences are designed to pull that out of you. Whereas there's other people living in the same circumstances and they're like, yeah, it's whatever, walking around barefoot. And I'm just like, oh my God. So it's very, very challenging. But I don't think if I was in a different circumstance, I go to the depth of myself that I went to. You know, I don't go that deep because I don't have to confront all the, again, it wasn't the ice, it wasn't the sauna, it was the bugs, it was the hot, it was the humidity, it was the lack of the nutrients. That was what was bringing it out. And if it would have been like in the wintertime and not a spider inside, not a bug inside. I'm like, oh, dude, this is no
It's like
problem.
getting in lukewarm water instead of ice water.
Correct. Instead of 32 degrees, it's like 50. I'm like, this is nothing.
Yeah.
And so it was very challenging. I'm glad I was prepared into the point where I didn't break. Like I thought I was going to mentally just like snap, but it was like because I had done these other things leading up to it, I could see and watch myself. Oh, you're freaking out right now. Oh, you're really stressed right now. Journal it out. Breathe it out. Feel these emotions, like breathe, you're okay. And so then so then this time I went back this year for a month. There's no problem. I didn't struggle. I didn't, there was no issues. It was still 100 degrees. It was still humid, but I'm like, oh.
And there were still bugs.
There's still bugs everywhere. Like, hey, scorpions, I'm your friend. Yeah. But it was totally different because I had not only gone through that, but I have accepted what it is that I'm doing, and I've changed. I've changed so much since the last time I was there, so it wasn't nearly as hard under the same conditions. But it's intense. It's definitely intense.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. Man.
It sounds intense.
But I tell people all the time, like, I'm an advocate for these things. I'm an advocate for these experiences because of what it can do for you. There's a saying, like, if you've ever gone to like therapy or counseling or coaching, it's like, you don't know what you don't know. That's what these ceremonies are about. It's like, man, you think you know something and your whole world's about to get flipped upside down. But then, like your friend, it's like, oh my God, like I needed that. I needed that. It's scary. It can be very uncomfortable. It can be hard. But these are all the things that you don't even know exist inside of yourself. And you see it, you feel it, and then you understand it in a way that it makes you a better person. And for me, a lot of times it's very humbling because I had to swallow a lot of humble pie. I'm like, that's how I occur to people, or that's how I communicate. That's my interpretation of what happened with our family. Oh my God, I'm so wrong. Like that hurts. That's ego check. And so I am an advocate for it. It's why I speak openly about it. You know, I'm really glad that you asked and let me talk about it, because there is so much that people can benefit from having experiences like this in a safe way, in a guided way, with experienced teachers, not just some random person that you read about it. It's like, for me, I always send people to Kumankaya. Like, hey, go down with my teachers there. Like, they're going to take good care of you. But that's the sacrifice. Again, in our day and age, people don't want to make that sacrifice. Right. Oh, let me go in someone's garage, or let me, you know, it's like, no, but this is a sacrifice. Oh, I want to be a personal trainer. Just let me look buff. No, get your degree or go to school, or oh, I want to be a nutrition coach. Well, it's not just about having abs. It's about knowing how these nutrients break down in your body, the physiology of it, how it affects your blood and your brain. And
Yep.
and so for me, I'm always like, I encourage people to have these things because you can only think so much. You can only get so far within yourself. And that's what these tools are for. That's what tools are for. And these sacred plant medicines are that. They're tools to help you unlock doors that you didn't even know were there.
Right.
And if you did, you didn't even know the keys existed. And then when you open it up, there's doors on doors on doors inside of yourself. And that's...
And some of those doors seem pretty scary. So even if you knew they were there, you might not want to open them.
Correct.
Otherwise,
Correct.
Kind of forces you to have to open them, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
That could be scary for some people.
It is, but that's the hero's journey. I don't know if you read any Joseph Campbell, but it's like, it's like you got to slay your dragon. You got to slay your dragon.
Yep.
And then the more dragons you slay, the more liberated you become, the more fulfilled you are, the more meaning you have, the more purpose you have. But some dragons are bigger than others, and that is scary. But that's the hero's journey, So
So do you take on just about any? Sorry, I didn't know if I.
No, I was gonna say Joseph Campbell's got one of my favorite quotes. It's like, "Inside the darkest cave lies your greatest treasure." Right?
Yes.
It's those like darkest places you fear to go is where for you, kind of unlocking sort of the power of the impact that you can make.
Yeah.
So what's your ideal client? Is it more of the Native Americans, or is it just anybody that's...
I just got asked this question recently. It's a great question. And I say, my ideal client is anyone who wants to grow. Anyone who wants to grow and put forth that effort. Because for me, I could say, I want a professional athlete who wants to take their game to the next level and makes $100,000 a year.
Right.
But then I get that client and they're resistant to whatever it is I'm doing. They're like, nah, my last trainer did this, or I don't want to do the breath work, or why am I sitting in the sauna? Why don't you? It's like, or I could get someone who is a Native American in the sober living community that comes in. Oh, great, they're sober. I can help them get their life together. I can teach them all these tools. And they're like, this is dumb. I don't want to do this. This isn't going to work. Like, I've heard it all before.
Right.
And I'm like, wow. So for me, the ideal client is people who want to grow, who are open. And I would say on top of that is like they're willing to be vulnerable and be inside of a community and understand that not everyone here is going to look the same. Not everyone here is going to talk the same. Not everyone here has the same background. And I think that's why I teach meditation or breath work. And even for me, because if you go into a lot of gyms and a lot of these yoga studios or meditation studios, most of them wouldn't want my type of people there.
Right.
And that's like, man, you're missing the point. You're missing the point of all this. And so for me, I let anyone come in, but it's up to you if you are willing to grow, because I'm going to push you. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to challenge you, I'm going to bust you up,
Right.
but you just have to be willing to grow. And that's, I think for me, if you're open-minded and want to really embody mind, body, spirit, then this is the place for you.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's awesome, man. Well, Joey, I'm sure we'll talk some more.
Yeah.
How can people
that's
find
great.
you?
So you can find me. You can come in. You can you guys can just blow up Travis, and Travis can.
No.
So my Instagram is at OPT Fitness. That's OPT Fitness. Our website is optimalaz.com. OPTIMALAZ.com.
Okay.
Our address is 745 West Baseline Street, Mesa, Arizona, or 745 West Baseline Road.
That's it.
Mesa, Arizona, 85210. And then I have a podcast, the Joey B podcast, and that's on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. And so those are
That's
like the
awesome.
main avenues to find us right now.
Cool.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm incredibly happy to have found you, and really happy that we can expose our students to
Yeah, for
to
sure.
OPT.
Thanks for
It's
having me.
awesome,
Yeah,
man.
all of you guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
we
awesome.
do too. All right, guys. Till next
Later.
time.
Thanks.